Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jonathan Starling, and I'm the Economic and Cooperative Development Officer here at BEDC. So welcome to our BEDC webinar today, How to Start a Consulting Business. As I said, my name is Jonathan Starling. I'm your host today, and I'm joined today by three guest speakers, Crystal Clay from Olive Branch Consulting, Joyce Hayward from Fusion for Business, and Monique Lister from Thrive Legal Solutions. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to give a general presentation about how to start a consulting business. And then we will go to our guest speakers who will give a little background about their business and their experience setting up a consultancy business. And then we'll go to questions and answers. And so if you have any questions, you should be able to write them in the chat, and we will be able to address them towards the end of the presentation. So, what is a consultant? Well, a consultant is anyone who has unique expertise, and it can be in any field. It doesn't have to be in policy analysis. It could be in construction. It can be in teaching. It can be anything where you are an expert in. And what the consultant does is they provide their expertise as a service to a customer. Now, when you're starting a consulting business, one of the key things before you start anything is to know yourself. You need to ask yourself some questions because these are key to having a successful business in general, but especially for a consulting business. One of them is, are you a good financial manager? Financial preparation is key for any business, and it's good for identifying if the business is viable and to make sure that it remains viable. You also have to have good business sense in terms of being responsible in managing yourself and finding opportunities for your business. You also have to be very good with time management, and this ties into discipline as well, because when you're running your own business, you are your own boss, and you don't have someone telling you what to do and making sure you're doing what you're supposed to do. You have to do all that yourself. And that can be very difficult for people who have been used to being an employee instead of an employer. So it's very important to have your discipline and time management. And time management goes to balance as well. You have to balance your work-life balance. Otherwise, you're just going to burn out, and that's not good for anyone. And that's why it's also important to have a good support network to help you with your business, because starting any business by yourself is a lot of stress, and it's good to have friends and family who are going to be there for you and assist you as you progress. So yeah, those are key questions to deal with. Now, key skills that you're going to need, and I actually went to Crystal some years ago, one of our guest speakers, to help with my active listening. I'm still working on it. She's going to lecture me after this, I'm sure. But one of the key things for any consulting business is to be very good with your active listening, because when you have a client that you are doing consulting work for, you need to pay attention to what they are asking for, what their needs are, and you have to have patience in understanding what they are saying. And sometimes they may not say everything that they need, and that's why it's important for you to be able to ask the right questions to them to make sure that you are getting the work that they need. And then you have to be very good detective. And that's why I've got Batman there. He's doing some detective work. Because once you have the problem, you have to do some investigation, find out the background to it. You have to analyze the problem before you can really get started. One key thing is to be organized. As I said, when you are doing your own business, you have to be disciplined. It's very easy to get off track, go down a rabbit hole, or to procrastinate. So you need to be very, very organized to run your own business, but especially to do a consulting business. Now, different fields, you might need specialized skills. So if you are doing engineering consulting, it's useful to be an engineer. Same if you're doing consulting for architecture, it's good to be an architect. So there are going to be specific skills that you'll need depending on what type of consulting you're doing. So you're doing legal consulting, it's good to have a legal background. So, but in general, you're going to need to be a good active listener and a good detective and very organized. Now, before you start doing your consulting business, it's important to do market research. This is going to be key to your success, and it's really important to identifying if your business is viable, is there a market for it, and it will help you design your business plan and inform your cash flow, which is all very important in designing your strategy and ensuring that your business is a success. Now, one of the first steps is identifying location. Are you going to need a physical building? Do you need an office? Or is the consulting business that you're going to be doing, is that something that you can do just by yourself on a laptop and a good internet connection and go to your potential clients' offices to meet with them? Or are you going to need a specialized equipment like a laboratory or something? So this is something that you need to work out very much at the very beginning. Your next step is you need to learn about your market. Who are your potential customers? Who needs the services that you can provide? What growth opportunity is there? Is there a lot of potential clients or not? You know, and it's very important to also know who your competitors are, because that way you can identify what they're doing well, what their strengths and weaknesses are, and what you can bring to the table, which is better. Why should people go to you instead of your competitors? And it's also good to know, is there room for another consulting business in that field? So that's very important to look at. You also want to identify how many customers do you need to break even or to make a profit. And for that, you need to have a good idea how much people are currently paying, how much are they willing to pay for the service you can provide. After you've done that, you will have a better knowledge of the market, and you'll be able to establish the needs of it. And you'll know how much potential work you are going to be able to do and where your clients are from. Are they government, are they private sector, are they charities? You also have a good idea of the size of the demand, which is going to inform your cash flow and help you identify your potential profit over time. And again, what's your edge over your competitors? What are you bringing to the table which your competitors don't? So that's a very important step there. Now, this is an interesting one. It's a focus group. And before you launch your business, it's good to try and survey as many people as possible to get objective feedback and help inform you in designing your business. And importantly, don't rely on your friends and family. You can involve them, but your friends and family, they often are going to tell you what you want to hear and not necessarily what you need to hear. So it's good to get objective, independent people. And I'd actually encourage you to meet with your own potential clients and to get their feedback about what services they currently use. And this is useful because you hear directly from your potential clients what their needs are. And it can also serve as a useful networking opportunity for you to get a couple customers right off the bat. If you make a good impression, they might be willing to put you on a trial basis. So that's always a good first step as well. Now, after doing all of that, you're going to have a very well-defined concept of what your business is. You'll have an idea of who your potential customers are, useful info on them. You know what they want and what they need and how to approach them. You're also going to know who your competitors are and their strengths and weaknesses. So that's very important. This all informs your business plan as a whole. Now, before you launch, it's useful to have marketing support. And for that, BEDC has got some Bermuda service providers. These are people that we know do good work and are a good price. And we have a list of them on our website. So if you're interested in getting good marketing support or other, go to our website, which is bedc.pm, and you'll see at the top this kind of menu bar. And if you click on services, down there you'll see something called Bermuda service providers. And it opens up. I didn't copy the whole page, but it's got a list of people and what their skills are. Do they offer marketing support or accounting support? And it's got their contact information. So that's a very useful place to start off with. Another question you're going to want to ask yourself is, do you want to buy a business, an existing business, or do you want to start from scratch? And there's interesting pros and cons to this. And I don't want to dwell on it too much, but I put these two links in here. And after this presentation, after the webinar is done, you should have access to this and you'll be able to go to these links and go to it. And both of these articles discuss the pros and cons of buying a new business or starting it from scratch. One thing I haven't really addressed here is when you're starting a consulting business, it can be useful to start it while you're working in a full-time job already. Just to start small, do it on the weekends to begin with until you've got, some experience, and then you can really test the water that way before you launch full on. And it's a lot easier to start a new business when you have income coming in from somewhere else. Let me put it that way. Now, every business involves risk and managing it, and that includes consulting businesses. So it's very important to plan for that in advance and incorporate safety procedures. Now, safety isn't just about at work, dealing with machines and making sure you don't get injured. It can also be about financial safety. So it's always important to consider that and consider insurance as well. So that can be a liability insurance. It can be if you have specialized equipment, it can be equipment insurance. And you also want to look at the right corporate structure for your business. There's three main types: limited liability corporations, sole proprietorships, and partnerships. And if you go to our website as well, under services, you'll see something called Small Business Toolbox. And in that, you'll find some useful documents that give you a background to each of these types of business models. And you can look at that and you can identify which one is best for you. And you can also arrange a meeting with a BDC officer to discuss the pros and cons and get their feedback. So, BDC, we're here to help you. So I won't go into detail on those. Beyond that, there's going to be government approvals that you have to consider. Some of these are going to be specific to the industry that you're in. But so if you're doing construction consulting, for example, you might need special approval from planning. If you're doing consultancy regarding health or food production, you might need a license from the Department of Health. So that's going to be specific to each of your particular industry. However, there are universal ones that everyone will have to take care of, and that's payroll tax. You need to register for payroll tax, you need social insurance, and you need pension. And we have information on our website, which we can tell you about. So that's all very useful. Then, of course, there's legal issues and insurance. Again, I've already touched on determining the right structure of your company, health insurance, liability insurance, workers' compensation if you have workers. And there are legal consultants that can assist you with this as well. Monique, who is on one of our guest speakers today, she's a legal consultant, so she can be someone you can reach out to as well. Now, cash flow is very important. I know a lot of people freak out or get scared looking at numbers. They're not my favorite either, but they are really crucial, and they will really inform you on whether your business is viable before you even start. And it will help you identify where your expenses are and where your potential growth is. So it's really important to get it done beforehand. And we encourage you to be conservative with your estimated income, but to kind of be liberal, almost exaggerate within reason your estimated expenses. And the reason for that is if you can show that your business is viable with conservative income and liberal expenses, then it's going to be profitable in real terms, right? And as you operate, it's important to keep track of your actual financials compared to your estimated cash flow. And that way you'll see if you're doing as you expected, or you're doing better. It also helps you throughout the year to look back and identify what your main costs are. Can you find a way to reduce those costs? Are there products that you're offering which are particularly more profitable than you thought? Can you concentrate on them and drop the less profitable ones? Maybe a product you're doing is not profitable. Get rid of it. Focus on the ones that do profit. So that a cash flow is going to be very important for you in starting your business and keeping an eye on it. And BDC, we offer courses throughout the year on finance management. So I would encourage you to look for those as well. And we also, under our Small Business Toolbox on our website, you'll find a cash flow template, which is an Excel spreadsheet. It's already set up with key things, and you just kind of plug in the numbers, do it month by month. And that's very useful to get you off the ground. I know it's scary, but just do it step by step. Now, after that, you've got your business plan, your market research, and your cash flow are key parts to that. And there's different ways to write a business plan, but there are about 6 key parts to any business plan. And we have on our website, we've got information like how to create a business plan. We even have some templates which kind of ask you questions and you just answer them. But the key things to any business plan is you're going to have an executive summary about what your business is and everything. You want to touch on what your services that you're providing. You want to do the market analysis, which you've done with your market research, which talks about the possible customers that you have. Strategy and implementation, how are you going to do it? Management team, if it's just you, who are you? What's your expertise? What qualifies you for this business? If you have employees, who are the key ones? What are their skills? Financial plan, that's really kind of going to be your cash flow, which I already touched on. Again, as I said, our small business toolbox, we have resources on our website for that to assist you. This is the small business toolbox I was talking about. Services, small business toolbox, and there's a list of forms and documents that you can download to assist you. Now, this is a key one, financing your business. There are different ways to do this, and it really depends on what your financial needs are going to be, which you will have worked out already from your cash flow. Now, bootstrapping, that's where you use your personal finance and sweat equity. So you're not really paying yourself to begin with. And if all you need to get your business off the ground is yourself and a laptop and internet, then your costs are going to be pretty low. If you need specialized equipment or you need an office space, then you might need to take a loan. And BDC offers a microloan of up to $30,000. And in addition to that, we offer a guarantee for larger bank loans outside of BDC. And that's up to 65% of up to a $200,000 loan. Then there's bank loans proper. And on our website, we tell you everything that you need to apply for the microloan. We have a microloan checklist. And bank loans will generally ask you for everything we ask for and a bit more. So if you don't need too much, maybe $5,000 to get started with a laptop and a few and marketing and website, come to us with a microloan, up to $30,000. And if you need more information, I know I've been pushing our website. We have a wealth of information there. And in addition to that, you can arrange a business meeting with an officer here at DEDC who can give you more information. We have a lot of courses throughout the year which you can take advantage of. And there's also GEW, Global Entrepreneurship Week, although we do it for all of November, so it's Global Entrepreneurship Month. And there's a competition there called Rocket Pitch, which is for new businesses. They can enter in, and you'll find that information on our website as well, I think. Or you can Google GEW Bermuda and it will pop up. And the Rocket Pitch is useful because you can actually win a prize and startup services to help you get your business off the ground. And I should say that everything that I've said here in the PowerPoint is a very shortened version of a how-to guide that we actually have, how to set up a consulting business. And you can find that on our website as well, under services, I think, and then there's a section how-to guides, and you see the consulting business. And you can also come and pick up a hard copy. We have some in our lobby outside. When you come in from the elevator, there's a stand and it's there. And it goes into a lot more detail from what I've touched on. I didn't want to talk too much. I wanted to make sure that we heard from our guest speakers and had a chance to hear from questions. So with that, I'm going to be quiet now and pass it over to Crystal Clay, Dr. Crystal Clay from Olive Branch Consulting. I have control over the slides, so I'll try to change slides as you need it, Crystal, but let me know if I'm slow. Okay?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jonathan. Jonathan, I was just enjoying hearing your presentation, and then you invited us to speak. But just in your presentation, I was also refreshed and learned so much as well. And so I thank you for sharing that presentation this afternoon. I think it's helpful to all of us, and it's so insightful. And it reminded me of my first start. And when I thought about going into business, the first place I went to was BEDC. And I remember speaking to Jamila at that time. And when I spoke with her, it kind of allayed all my fears about what it meant to go into business. And it gave me the confidence to say, you know what, Crystal, you can do this. And so I just want to reiterate BEDC as a resource that is not just there to support you while you're in business, but even before you are in business, while you're thinking about going into business. So just in terms of my background, I spent 30 years in the financial services industry. and I was primarily in HR and talent functions all of my career. I started off actually in insurance in claims in the U.S. And then I quickly realized that that wasn't my area of strength, and I moved into HR. And just my love for people and people development has been the premise of my career and my mission to support others in their career. And so I started Olive Branch Consulting in 2017, and I started. And when I thought about my career has. I always thought about my career in markers, in 10-year markers, and when I was in my 10th year at last company, which was Chubb, I thought about what I wanted for my next decade of my career, and my next decade, which I consider to be kind of just a critical decade, is I decided that I wanted to start my own business, which is a lifelong dream of mine. However, it was something that I had to be much more intentional about at that particular marker of my career. And so I started my business, and primarily has 3 pillars, which is training, consulting, and coaching. And all of them I love to do. And you will see in my bio there that primarily I like to assist people who are looking to reposition or reinvent themselves to make a greater impact. And that is what Olive Branch Consulting does. So I'm not going to speak so much about myself because it's not about me today, but I do want to share the primary question here is, what do I wish that I knew before I started my career? And, you know, there's so much about starting your own business that is out there, and Jonathan covered so much of it. One of the things that I didn't realize before I went into business is that my mindset really does matter. You know, there was so much about on the business planning side, on the financial side, on the, you know, how much you have to grind and do all this extra work. And it could almost be enough to discourage you to say, you know what, I think I'm just comfortable where I am. And that's where your mindset is challenged. And that is when you have to really make a decision that you have to set your, I'm just going to speak on mindset for a second.
Sorry.
And that's when you really have to make sure that you engage in the level of self-talk, that a positive self-talk, that you are set on a pilgrimage, you are set on this journey, and you need to make sure that you have the level of resilience that's going to take you all the way on the journey. It's not just about getting enough gas to start off on the journey. If anybody is taking a boat ride and you're out there far in the distance, you know that you have to fill up that gas tank to bring you out and bring you back. And that is what the business, and I see my colleagues here, Joyce and Monique, nodding very profusely, that absolutely, that is what it takes. So your mindset, so just know how, one, resilient you are, and secondly, understand how ready you are. Just because you have an idea, it does not mean that you are ready. And it's important. I wanted to start my business 3 years before I actually, well, many years before I started it. And then another stage when I actually said I'm going to do it. And then, but I wasn't ready yet. And so you will know when you are ready. And so be confident of your own state of readiness and not compare your timing to anyone else's timing. And then the third part of that is understanding your own reality. One of the things that Jonathan said at the very beginning was to know yourself. And knowing yourself means knowing your strengths, not just knowing yourself, but also believing yourself. Do you believe that you can do this? And that is just so important, to be able to have that self-efficacy that you can do this. And then, and not only just knowing yourself, but knowing your reality. And your reality, and be grounded in your reality, because this is not a fantasy. It's not, we're never going to romanticize what it's like to start your own business, but you have to understand your reality. So that's the first, is mindset does matters. And secondly, Jonathan, thank you so much for doing such an excellent job. The next slide. The next
Oh,
slide.
didn't
That's all right. Uh, That's all right. So the next thing I wanted to just share, which is one of the things that I wish that I knew, was paradigm shift. And and Jonathan started to speak on this a little in the presentation, and he spoke about you can actually start your business while you're an employee. The two, in being an employee and being an employer, are not mutually exclusive. You can do both. And he talked about starting your own business while you don't have the pressure of having to make income for your business, to fund your business, etc. And so you can do both. And you can also just kind of try something. That gives you an opportunity to try some things as you go along. The other, so there's a paradigm shift. And then the other paradigm shift that I knew, that I wished I knew earlier on in my career, is that I didn't have to start off my career looking for a job. And I think that's a product of my generation. And I see Joyce looking at her, nodding as well. I think in my generation, and I'm not ashamed to say that I am a baby boomer, and in my generation, we were taught that you had to leave college and find a safe job where you can stay at for 30, 40 years, and that's going to be your life. And I wish that I knew that I could actually start out as a business when I graduated from college, or even if I didn't go to college, that you can still start your career. And so that's a paradigm shift. And I see many more millennials doing that now. And more power, if you are a millennial and you're on the line or whatever, more power to you. I see millennials just going for it. And I'm like, wow, if I just knew that when I was like 20 something, I'd be rocking it by now. So I just appreciate that paradigm shift. And the other thing, which was a paradigm shift for me, is sales. I personally did not like sales. Do not like sales. Let me not say did not. Do not like sales. But the paradigm shift for me is to look at what I do as a service that people need. And so that kind of just took the weight off of me. If I have something that somebody needs, then the onus is on me to share that with someone, because somebody could be waiting for just what is that Joyce has, what it is that Monique has. And thankfully, Joyce and Monique are in business because they have two critical needs that we all have in finance and legal. And so I'm so glad that they both said yes. And so that was a paradigm shift for me, is not to keep things to myself. And then the next thing, Jonathan, and I know that I only have a few minutes here, is that I wish that I knew that clarity comes with time. And sometimes we could go into analysis paralysis, and we think that we have to have the perfect product. And one of the things that a software engineer said to me one time, which kind of set me free, is he talked about, and I hope I'm going to get this right, this minimum viable product. And that is that you can, you don't have to have a perfect product at the very beginning, that you can actually tweak the product as you go along. And that it's much better if you do that, because you can get feedback as you go along and you can test things, and that helps. And so that was helpful to me to understand that clarity does come with time. You can start off with a lot of things that you can be good at, and then you recognize that there are some things that you actually want to focus in on. And so clarity does come with time. So don't let that paralyze you from starting. And so the next thing I want to share is that change is constant. And we all learned that from 2020, that you have to be agile, because that was a major change for all of us. But in business, as with any organization, we know that change is constant, and so we can make sure that we are agile and always preparing ourselves for change. And then, as I draw this to a close, the next thing that I wish that I knew is that I don't have to be alone, that I'm not alone in this. Even as we were here on the seminar, we're not alone. And I can't wait to hear the perspectives of my two dear colleagues that are here and that offer such amazing services, and that we have an opportunity to collaborate. We have opportunities to outsource, and the things that I'm not good in everything, and I don't have to be good in everything, but there are some things that you can outsource, and there are people who will be willing to lend support. And so when people offer support, don't be shy and don't be prideful. When you need help, there are so many people that empathize with business owners. And so I wish that I knew that I could access my allies much sooner than I actually did. And the other paradigm shift that I forgot to say is that, you know what? You're never too young. And guess what? You're never too old. And I wanted to make sure that I put that plug in for those who might be over 50 something. And the last thing that I want to share in terms of just the things that I wish that I knew, and I know I always knew that lifelong learning was just a general passion of mine. I did not know how learning as a lifelong mission would be critical to what I do as a business owner, and that you have to constantly be in a state of learning and constantly in a state of growing in order to serve yourself well, but most importantly to serve your clients well. So thank you so much for the opportunity. I welcome your questions later on. And I'm really excited now to hear from my two dear colleagues, Monique and Joyce.
Thank you, Crystal. That was fantastic. And just a reminder to the audience, you should be able to write your questions in the chat, and we should be able to review them and answer them later on after this. And I'm going to move to Ms. Joyce Hayward now. Joyce, I made you a slide.
Say that again, Jonathan. You what?
I made you a slide. I made you one.
Oh, okay. I actually just sent something to you that I can share my screen as well. But it came to me as Crystal was talking that awesome, Crystal and Jonathan, you've covered a lot of it. You've covered much of it. And if you want to put it up, Jonathan, you can. If you can, if not, that's no big deal. But I am Joyce Chesley Hayward. My company is Fusion for Business, and I'm a CPA, and our focus is helping business to maximize profitability. And that's the reason why I started business. Initially, I had a business for 10 years in the United States. And after moving to Bermuda and being in government, being in international business, my heart just throbbed that I needed to help businesses again. A little background about me. I am a CPA, as I mentioned, a certified public accountant, chartered public accountant here in Bermuda. Thank you, Jonathan, on top of things. Appreciate that. I am a CIA, which is a designation I got because I thought it was interesting to say CIA. And then people started getting antsy about being in the CIA, but it stands for Certified Internal Auditor. And then CBA, a chartered bank auditor. So my initial start in my accounting career was in public accounting back in the day, as Crystal has mentioned, when those of us who are over the half a century mark, that there was a big 8 accounting firm, and I started in Coopers and Lybrand and worked in audit, and that was something I realized. I went from audit into banking, and the bank that's now Bank of America, I worked at as an auditor and a lender. And where I really got my start in business was being I was working in private banking, but then I went into lending. So many businesses came to me that did not have their numbers together. They literally came to a loan committee with a shoebox, and my heart bled for them because they had great ideas. They wanted to start these wonderful businesses, but they didn't know how to present themselves. They didn't know how to put their numbers and projections together. They didn't have a business plan, and that's where I found my niche. And I will say, as a consulting business, and I try not to bounce all over the place, but as ideas are coming, niches are for riches, as they say. I have a coach, and 2 of the coaches I worked with, that is my niche, is working with small businesses. I have worked with businesses in the US and Bermuda, and we are the same all over the world. We need help. As has been mentioned, we have to work together. We have to look at organizations like the BEDC. And again, thank you for having me. I so appreciate the BEDC. I started again in Bermuda, starting up a business again about 5 or so years ago, and I didn't know anything about the BEDC. Someone told me to reach out to a person that they knew at the BEDC and met with them, and it's been, I guess, like a love affair ever since. I believe in all the things that they do, all of the programs, these kind of panel discussions. They are so into making sure businesses have what they need. And I've even done some work with the BEDC, and I so enjoy it. It's a great team, great group of people. You hear a lot of stuff about, lots of things, but it really, they are a resource, a great resource. As I mentioned, I do consulting on coaching as part of my business as an accountant. I'm an author now. I've been part of a couple of collaboration books, and my own book is coming out really soon. And I do work with QuickBooks as a pro advisor. I have a team that work with accounting, but really we're about maximizing profitability. So what I wanted to share with you all today as a couple of questions, that's my business, Fusion 4 Business, and the number 4, and it's called Fusion because we bring things together. With over 30 plus years of experience in the US, in Bermuda, in working in banking, in working in government, and working in international business, and working with small businesses, I look to bring it all together. How do we bring it all together? I don't look at myself as one of those accountants that just talk accountantese, but I actually try to say things to people that aren't scary. As Jonathan said, a lot of people don't like dealing with the numbers, they don't like the math, they don't like any of that. I will say in school, I didn't like math either, but I knew I liked to help businesses. And so thank you, Jonathan. We're right on time. For my mantra is businesses being their best, being the best. And that's an acronym, BEST. And B stands for believe in yourself. And I think it's been mentioned already. It's about mindset, that 6 inches between your ears. And just knowing that you can do it, knowing that you are able to do it, and keeping yourself affirmed every day, saying to yourself, waking up in the morning and saying, I can do it. If God gave you the idea to do it, you can do it. So it's that idea is in your head for a reason. As Crystal said, we're the aspirin for somebody's pain. Wouldn't that be horrible if you were that solution and you didn't give that to somebody? So we're the aspirin for the pain. Believe that, know that. The next is E, which is educate yourself. And again, Crystal talked about that. And one of the things I'll share with you is that there's statistics about billionaires and billionaires. They don't watch television. And I'm just going to pause for a minute. They don't watch television. They read books. They're constantly educating themselves, as Crystal said, lifetime learning, because they call it a boob tube for a reason. The most millionaires read at least a book a month, most a book a week. Continually educate yourself. Read something. Sometimes we need that mental break. We need to de-stress, and for some that's TV. But every week, find a book. Every month, find a book that helps you in your business. And I think, Jonathan, you mentioned it as well. Know your craft. Learn about your don't even call them competitors, the people that are giving you education and helping you learn more about what you want to do and be. The S is for stick to it. Stick to it. Stay with it. Quite often we're right on the verge of a breakthrough and then we give up. Know that you can do it, that you can stick to it. It's about consistency. In business, it's about consistency. You may not see it today, you may not see it tomorrow. I've been in this a long time. Like I said, I had a business for 10 years in the States. I'm starting kind of over again, or really continuing on with that. And as Crystal said, you're never too young, you're never too old. But the thing is continue to stick with it. Don't get discouraged. Don't give up. So, and learn from everything you do. It's not a mistake. It's a learning opportunity. And the T is about tribe and team. And again, was said, no man is an island. And there's an African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to raise a business. Your business is your baby. And we have to have a team. We have to have a tribe. You have to have people around you that will encourage you and support you. And I think it may have been mentioned, or it might have been a coaching call I had earlier. It's not always your family. Quite often it's not your family. It's people who are like-minded, who are in business, who understand that this is what you're doing and why you're doing it. I don't necessarily believe in striving and toiling. My mantra is profit freedom, having profit in your business so you can have freedom in your life. You should be able to have a balance, as been mentioned. You should be able to enjoy your life. So, for those people that tell you, you have to work hard and give up everything, you do have to live a few years like some won't, so you can live your life like others can't. That's a quote, and I'm not sure who it's from, but it doesn't mean that you have to always work. You want to have balance. But if you set your business up right, and Jonathan mentioned a lot of good nuggets at the beginning with a business plan, with planning your numbers, planning for a profit, and making sure you have that team to support you, then you can make sure that you don't have to give up your life to be in business. You really don't. One of my taglines now is that I want businesses to profit from their purple. And I get that from the movie The Color Purple or the book The Color Purple. There's a line in there that says, it ticks God off when people pass by a field of purple and don't stop and take notice and stop and recognize. You are purple. Each and every one of us have some purple in us, some uniqueness. We are fearfully, wonderfully made. We have uniqueness that is only you. You might be in the same business someone else is in, but you do it the way you do it because it's you that's doing it. And so that's your purple. That's the thing that makes you you. I don't know if you can see I'm purple. You see I'm purple? Yeah. I may not be wearing purple because I am purple. I believe that we have to profit from our purple, that our businesses can be the greatest businesses that they can be if we use our uniqueness. Again, being yourself, believing in yourself. So some of the things that I may not have covered in that is there was a couple things I thought I made some notes, and I need to look at my notes as a couple of you all were talking, that really it's about believing that you can do it, but setting yourself up smart, being smart about it. It does get easier. It does get better. Initially, when I started years ago, when I started the business, I didn't know I just knew I needed to help people. And I truly believe that that's what our businesses are about. And as Crystal said, you don't want to withhold from people what you have. You've been given that gift for a reason. And I knew I was given a gift to help people. I knew I was able to talk to people about money that didn't make them uncomfortable, that wasn't accountant ease, as they say. And so as I went along, I figured it out. And as I've gotten older and I'm doing it differently, one of the things I will say is having a coach. And that's kind of dealing with the team and tribe. But I will say in business now, you need a coach. You need a consultant. You need a coach. You need good people around you. Every athlete, the Olympics are going on, are about to start tomorrow. Great athletes, even the best of athletes, have coaches all their lives. That's the same for being in business. If you want to be the best at what you want to be, think about having a coach, having a team of consultants. Monique is here, Crystal's here, BDC is here, I'm here. We're all about coaching, helping, consulting. You cannot do it by yourself. You really can't. And I've learned that over the years that, and as I've come into business this second half, I realized having coaches is really important. You have to invest in yourself. You don't have to necessarily have a college degree or a university degree, but you have to invest in yourself, whether it's formal education or on-the-job training. You need to invest in yourself. BDC is the most value for money, best value for money I think I've ever seen on this planet. And I'm doing work in a lot of different spheres and places, and they offer a lot of information for free, a lot of free stuff on their website. Please read their website, spend some time. Spend 15 minutes a day, half hour a week, just looking through the BDC website, looking at that toolbox, seeing what's in there. But it does get better. It does get easier, but having the right people around you, surround yourself with a great team, tribe, coaches, profiting from your purple. And those I think I've covered in that, all the things I wish I knew then that I am sharing with you now. So much success to everyone. It's a great journey. And thank you for being part of this, because a lot of people don't take the time. This is showing you're being here today is showing that you're investing in yourself, because time is the commodity that we can't get back. So this is money. Your time is money. So again, my information is on the screen. Fusion4, the number 4, we're numbers, number4business.com, info@fusion4business.com if you want to email me. I'm on Facebook, Joyce Chesley Hayward, and on LinkedIn. I've Motivated Mondays and Thriving Tuesdays, Tips Tuesdays, and Winning Wednesdays, and Thoughtful Thursdays, and Freedom Fridays. You'll see all that kind of stuff that I post at various times on Facebook and LinkedIn. Information just to help, because that's what I believe we should do. When we give, it comes back to us, pressed down, shaken together, running over. You have to give in order to get. So be a giving business, and you'll find that you get. Over deliver, and you'll find that your business will be blessed. So thank you, Jonathan, again for inviting me, and I turn it over to Miss Monique.
Thank you, Joyce. Just give me 1 second to get the slide back up, and should be up now. Monique.
Next slide. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Monique Lister, the founding attorney of Thrive Legal Solutions. I have over a decade of legal experience working with small and large international organizations here in Bermuda, as well as in the US and UK, as well as regulatory experience.
Sorry, Monique, you're very quiet.
Just a moment. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I guess trying to hide the mic isn't the best idea. Okay, well, let me start again. I am Monique Lister, the founding attorney of Thrive Legal Solutions, and I have over a decade of legal experience working with large international organizations as well as smaller local companies, both in the US and the UK, as well as here in Bermuda, as well as regulatory experience. And I'm actually admitted to practice in New York State, in England, and here in Bermuda, obviously. And so as I was going through, my career working with all the different organizations, I would interact a lot with small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, and I would see, there was a lot of legal gaps. You'd see a contract that they provide as a service provider, and I was opposing counsel, so I couldn't completely rewrite their contract, but I just one look and I could see glaring gaps, or as a regulator, trying to make sure that there's a fair playing field for local companies against larger companies, I would see some gaps in terms of their legal services. And so, as I'm going through my career, I'm looking and I'm seeing that there's this obvious need out there, but there isn't really anyone meeting that need. There's lots of large law firms that mostly are geared towards the larger international companies, but there's not a lot of resources for smaller companies. So last summer, I was actually working with Crystal. So that's part of my team. Both Crystal, Joyce, and Jonathan all talked about the importance of teams. Well, Crystal was part of my team, and working with her, I realized, there is this need, and I had a passion to provide that need. And so that was the birth of Thrive. And so I understand entrepreneurs because I am myself an entrepreneur. And so moving on to the next slide, Thrive provides strategic legal solutions that provide freedom to thrive. And what that means is, I once read a quote that said, every business is a family business. And I thought, what does that mean? Well, if you're stressed out about your business, worried about making payroll, or worried about how you're going to pay your rent, you take that home with you, and your family suffers for it. Your business is doing well, your business is thriving, your family feels that too. You may have extra money for a vacation, you're relaxed, you're not yelling at your children because you're so stressed out. And so that really came home to me, because when small businesses thrive, families thrive, and communities thrive. And so that's where the name Thrive came from, and it's the focus on helping businesses thrive so that it creates an impact on the wider community. And so Thrive provides external general counsel services that really allows us to partner with their clients. There's the phrase garbage in, garbage out, and that applies to legal services too. If I don't know much about your business, I'm just looking at a contract, but I don't know, the size of your business, I don't know what services you provide, I don't know if you have employees or not, then I can't give you the best advice. So the goal of Thrive is to have a long-term partnership with our clients. not just one-off projects, so that we understand your business. And when you come to me with a question or you come to me with a request, I already have the background knowledge to be able to provide the best advice possible. And so I do that through value-based services, and that helps to provide certainty. And so all of the services are either on a subscription basis or a flat rate, so you know in advance how much you have to pay. And the signature framework is build, know, and grow. Building through a legal health check, where I look at the business and I say, okay, this is where you're at, this is where you need to improve, this is where you're
Monique.
strong.
Sorry, we lost you for a second.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so we do this through the build, know, and grow framework. And with the legal health check, it looks at the business, says where you're strong, where you're not, and helps to create a plan for you to, get to where you need to be in terms of your strategic legal foundation. Then the know is the monthly subscription service, where you have unlimited short answer questions that you can send me via email, and you can get direct legal advice on those questions. Then grow through strategic projects, which in the areas of contracts, employment, and data privacy. And then on to the lessons learned. I also kind of frame that in the build, know, and grow. So in terms of building the right foundation, knowing your numbers, and then growing the right team. So there's lots of synergies between what Crystal and Joyce have already said. So some of the stuff I'll kind of slide over. But in terms of building your foundation, you need to know what your goals are for your business, your target audience, your branding, your mission, vision, and values, etc. Because you have to know where you're going in order to know how to get there. Even in terms of looking at a consulting business, do you want to stay as a solo consultant, or is your goal to eventually have partners, employees, to merge with a larger firm? Knowing that from the beginning will help to frame how you conduct your business and where you want to go. And then there's a phrase, if your target is everybody, then your target is nobody. And Joyce talked about knowing your target audience and really getting to know who they are, what they're looking for, even as simple as, what type of publications they like to read. So really build that foundation and get to know who it is that you're looking to reach. And then building greater understanding of your strengths. Working with Crystal, as well as with other members of my team, I found Strengths Finder to be very, very crucial. And so it's a great tool that you can use, and you can take this. A quiz doesn't take very long, but it helps you to understand your strengths, as even Jonathan talked about as well. And so when you know your strengths, you want to focus on your upper strengths. And so looking at where your strengths are and where your zone of genius is. And then also we'll get to building teams. When you build up your team, you want to try and find team members who have strengths that you lack. And so understanding your strengths helps you to build a business where you're focusing on your strengths, and you know what to outsource, and who to go to for help, and the types of skills and strengths that you want them to have. And then building your signature services. Sometimes as a smaller business or a consultant, you get caught up in, as long as somebody's coming to you with a request, then you want to take that request, as opposed to figuring out what are the services that I actually want to focus on, where does my expertise lie, and then once you have that developed, then you have a framework for what you need to focus on, as opposed to just chasing every single type of, when you have a chef, normally they might be a pastry chef, they might be a sushi chef, they might be an Italian chef. And if I'm a sushi chef, if somebody comes to me and says, hey, can you bake me a cake? Of course I'm going to say no. That's not in my wheelhouse. It's not in my zone of genius. And so maybe I can bake the cake, but it's not going to be the best cake because that's not what I do on a regular basis. That's not something that I do normally. I may have had training in that, way back in culinary school, but I haven't baked a cake in 10 years other than maybe for my kid's birthday. So I don't have that expertise. And it can be the same way as a consultant. Someone may come to you and say, hey, you're a lawyer. Do you do, sales, real estate sales? No, that's not what I do. I've never done a real estate sale. I'm not going to be like, okay, yes, let me do that, just because it's the money coming in. If you have your framework from the beginning, you know where your expertise lies and how those services will align with your expertise. It helps you to focus on what you need to be doing, and that got caught up in operating from a place of scarcity, where you see, I just need to make some money, so I'm going to do whatever. And so Crystal talked about the minimum viable product, the MVP, and one of the phrases that I like to use is done is better than perfect. I get called, especially as a lawyer, because, there's been instances where millions of dollars have been lost based on the placement of a comma. Being perfect is very important as a lawyer, but sometimes you have to understand when to be this level of perfect and when this level of perfect is acceptable. And so focusing on the right level of, perfection, and focusing on the right level of where a product needs to be, as opposed to striving for complete perfection all the time. Knowing your numbers, this was discussed a lot, so I'm going to kind of slide over the cash flow and budgets, etc. But something that was important to me, which Joyce talked about, maximizing profits. And for me, what has worked is the profit first method. And this is a method, there's a book that you can get called Profit First, but you don't just Google Profit First, there's a lot of information out there. And it takes the standard equation, which is sales minus expenses equals profit, and kind of flips it around. So sales minus profit equals expenses. And so it focuses you from the very beginning on making sure that you earn a profit and making sure that you allocate money for the important expenses such as taxes, but also working on controlling your expenses and focusing from the very beginning on this business needs to make a profit. And so businesses that attain early and sustained profitability have a better shot at achieving long-term growth. And then knowing where to save and where to invest. It's important to keep your expenses in check, but it's also important to know, where you need to invest money. And that's related to your business type, it's related to your strengths, etc. And so for me, it was important to have branding, to make sure that my business looked the right way, that it had the right framework in place. And so I worked with Brandline. That was an investment that I made. You see that lovely logo in the corner, that was their work. And so for me, that was important. For someone else, maybe if you have graphic design background or IT background, maybe that's not as much of an area where you need to invest, and you might invest the money elsewhere. For all businesses, it's important to invest in legal services. I would say that, and not just because I am a lawyer, because I've seen even established businesses that have been running for decades, that are seemingly well run. I'll look at a contract, or I'll look at, something, their employment, and I'll say, okay, I see a red flag just immediately looking at that. And so a lot of times you don't know what you don't know. And so you think just because you haven't been sued, or just because you haven't had an issue, that everything's fine, when it's really not. And so it's important to get that expertise. Financial expertise is very important. Figuring out what are the keys to invest in for your business. And then in terms of growing your team, which has also been touched on, but one of my coaches always says, entrepreneurship is a team sport. You cannot do this alone. And so some of the great resources, BDC, having mentors, having partners, in terms of your key areas, we talked about the legal, accounting, other resources that you might need. And when you think about key partnerships, you can think outside the box. If you have a legal service, then an obvious partnership is with an accounting service, for example. But if your target market is women in their 30s to 40s who are looking for a career change, then another partnership opportunity might be a mom group, where their members are in that kind of age range. And so it's, don't just think about traditional partners when you're thinking about growing your team, whether it's through employees, whether it's through mentors, whether it's through the resources such as BDC and Ignite. I was a member of the last Ignite cohort. But think outside the box and expand your network, because you cannot do this alone. Like, that is incredibly important. Before I even started this, I worked with Crystal, I worked with BDC. I have so many different resources that I've used, and I am the much better for it, and my business is better for it. And therefore, I can provide to my clients in a much stronger way and deliver it in a better way. And so I touched on these strengths before. So when you're growing with your lower strengths in mind, think about, when you look at the strengths finder, there are 4 key areas. And let's say you're strong in all your highest strengths in strategy, but you're very low in the execution strengths. So you think about, okay, when I'm hiring, let's say, an administrative assistant, I need to make sure that they're strong in execution because that's where I'm weak. And so when you grow your team, you need to think about, okay, where do I need to, what are the gaps that I need to fill? Where are my weakness or lower strengths? We don't like to say weaknesses. Where are my lower strengths? Where do they lie? And how can I really grow my team so that I can deliver the best service possible to my clients, so that I can reach my goals? And when you think about goals, it's important to think, what are my goals in starting this business as well? It may be my goal is to have more free time with my family. It may be that I want more flexibility. It may be that, I want to be able to travel. I want to make more money, whatever it is. But if your goal is to spend more time with your family and your business, you're working 80 hours a week, then you have to think about, okay, well, is this just a temporary thing to get this started? And then I expect this to normalize in the future? Or do I expect this to really be an 80-hour-a-week business all the time? Because in that case, you're certainly not meeting your goals with that business. So you have to think about how you can change things in order to meet your goals. So it's important as any type of budding business owner, especially the consultancy business, to know what you'd like to get out of it, what are your goals for yourself personally, and how do they interact with your goals for your business, and then to go ahead and build out that team, build out that business that meets those personal and those business goals.
Cool. Thank you very much, Monique. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Now I'm looking in the questions section, and I'll address some of those. But just while I look at that, I wanted to pose a question to our guest speakers, and I'll do it in reverse order. So Monique, you answer first, and Joyce, then Crystal. What has been the most difficult, the most challenging part of setting up your consulting business?
I would say for me, the most challenging part is managing uncertainty. Um, I am a person who likes to have some level of control, even knowing that there's no such thing as control. You can only control so much. And obviously, adding the uncertainty of a global pandemic while opening a new business, um, it's just a matter of figuring out what works for you in terms of figuring out what you can control and what you can't. And obviously, the only thing you can control is yourself and your own actions. And so for me, being organized in terms of setting out plans. I have a message board on my kitchen on the wall where it says exactly what I need to do for the week, as well as every day I pick just three things that I want to accomplish. And if I accomplish those things, then I can move on to other things, but those are my three priority items. And so finding a way to be organized and for me to really figure out what helps me to find a level of certainty in growing that business has been my biggest challenge. And that's related to the mindset, which Crystal talked about, where you have to be able to figure out what it is that works for you in terms of moving forward and in terms of just having that organization and that understanding of what needs to move your business, what needs to keep your business going.
Okay. Joyce, what are your thoughts?
I agree. Time management can be one of the things when you're doing it, when you're the main one. And for me, what that ties to is the team. I'm constantly looking at who's on the team, who's helping me, and what I need. And right now, my biggest challenge is finding the right virtual assistant. I've been through 3, and it's finding that balance, that that person that matches with you. And I find my business is constantly growing and changing, and what I needed last month almost, but last year is different from what I need this year. And so being able to be flexible and recognizing that there's nothing, as I said, nothing is really a failure. It's about learning and learning experiences. And so finding good people and keeping good people, because people that are great at what they do, people are looking for them. People, they're busy. And so I would say right now, it's for me, one of the challenges is, and for a lot of my clients, I think that's the thing as well. Various types consulting businesses or other types, that finding the right people and keeping the right people can be a challenge. So that is something that I would say, and I had written something else down. Oh, and as Monique said, having that ongoing, that uncertainty for my clients, it's an ongoing funnel, I will say, making sure they have ongoing business coming in, especially for consultancy business. If you have one contract or a main contract, that's money that's coming in, but what if that contract is no longer there? So, and also it's that collection of the money. And thanks for mentioning profit first, Monique, because I was a profit first professional. I definitely believe in profit first as well. That's how I started with Profit Freedom, was from the profit first methodology. One of the things was from profit first methodology. And it's making sure cash is king, and making sure you have cash coming in, having enough clients, and having enough ongoing clients, ongoing funds coming in, to know that you're covering everything. So I praise God, I've got that sorted out for me, but I find that for most of my clients, that's the thing for their consulting businesses, is making sure that they've got ongoing, either, a plan for how they're continually marketing, prospecting and marketing, because they are different, as well. So to make sure that, that uncertainty of money coming in and how they're collecting the money. So for me right now, it's team and tribe, and keeping and getting, constantly looking at having the right people on your team. And then for clients as well, and myself, always making sure there's business coming in, and that you're taking care of the business that you have and working on the new business that you need to bring in.
Thank you. And Crystal?
And I agree with everything Monique and Joyce said. And I think we're all on the same theme. And I suppose mine is letting go, right? And it's letting go of the things that I know that I need to do, things that somebody else can do, things that I want to do, things that I'm willing to do, and things that, just looking at value for time. And this is the best use of my time. And so all of our themes seem to fall around time management, and really looking at the value for what value are we getting of the time that we're using. And so for mine is letting go and shutting down, letting go of the things that I don't need to do, that someone else could do, that will serve them better and serve me better, as Joyce was just saying. And then shutting down, because there are so many things that are on your mind with related to your business, related to your clients, related to going forward, related to in the present, etc. And so it's knowing, it's balancing that self-care and being able to shut not just your body down, but shut down your mind. And that has been a challenge for me. So great question.
Okay, cool. Thank you. One of the questions that I see in the chat is, will the presentation be available later? And my understanding is, if you registered for the webinar, you were given a link, and if you can always use that link again to watch the recording. So yeah, it will be available later. This one isn't really a question, but I just wanted to let my guest speakers know that a question in the chat was amazing woman guest speaker. So you're appreciated. They like you. They don't like me. They like you. Another question is, are we seeing more and more young people going into their own business than before? What do you guys think? Have you seen that, Crystal?
Completely seen that. And that's one of the things I mentioned earlier, is that we have a whole new generation of enterprising young people, and I am loving it. I'm loving that they are bold, they are courageous, they are going for it. And and one of the paradigm shifts that I was thinking of is this reverse mentoring, is that there is a lot that generations can learn from each other. I am completely open to learning from the younger generation, and I am learning from the younger generation, because they are fearless and they are not shy of just going for it and taking the bull by the horn. And so I'm certainly seeing a trend. I don't know whether Monique and Joyce want to add to that, but I am definitely seeing more of the values are different from generation to generation. And primarily that's because of the way that we were raised, our background, etc., and the era that we came out of. It's no fault of any generation, but this generation has seen so many organizations make their parents redundant. They've seen organizations after several years shut down, and after many people have been loyal to organizations and then they can be let go quite easily. They've seen so much that nowadays where our trend was to stay at organizations for over decades and decades. Now the trend is more like, we're going to date this organization and we're not going to marry them. We're going to date them, and we're going to date them for this amount of time, and this is what we're going to do. And so there's been a shift in thinking about the employment relationship, and we're noticing that more and more. So I don't know if Joyce or Monique want to add to that.
Well, I'll pop in that I agree completely. And a few things I've seen is that the generation under, or I won't say under me, because there's really a couple of generations under me. The thing that I think I see a lot are causes that a lot of the younger generation are going into business because of things that they feel strongly about. That it's about the business, but it's a service business. It's sometimes they're not even caring about the money really, even though they know they need to make money. And they find that when you're doing the right thing, the money will come. And so I think that has happened a lot. Having sons who are, one is in business for himself, and the other one I think is thinking about some things that's the thing, is that they're finding that what are they passionate about. So that's the other thing, is I think a lot of younger people, and I like the way you said that, they're dating instead of, and it was funny, I was laughing at Family Feud. My mom likes to watch Family Feud. She was mentioned the other day, a question came up, I think, about what's the average amount of time people stay on a job. And, somebody said 40 years. And everybody, the audience cracked up, because it was like, who does that now? 3 was, I think, the number one answer. And so things have shifted, and it's about what I found with my sons and my niece and nephew, and that they're in the 30s now, which is the next generation in their 20s looking at jobs. They're taking jobs that they enjoy. I remember going to school to get a job. I went to school to do something I knew I could do, that I could get into school, get out of school, and get a job that I liked. Even if I didn't like it a lot, it was like I could make money at it. But that's not the thought now. It's as much as so the generations have changed. And I like that reverse mentoring, that, it's a coming together. But the other part is the IT. The generation now has grown up with the computer and grown up with the internet and grown up with all these things. And I watch young people that are into the gaming and learning how to code and all those kinds of things. And coding was something completely different when I was in school, with Fortran and COBOL, and people don't even know those words anymore. That was completely different with the zeros and ones. That's what we did. But it's so different now, and IT has changed. COVID has changed the world with what we need and have to do, even like we're now in a virtual space. And so I think that has caused people to meet a need, that young people who love IT, who love causes, who like to do certain things, they've jumped in, as Crystal has said, because they see a need that needs to be met. And the thinking that you have to have that stability of this job forever is not, as Crystal said, that doesn't really exist anymore anyway. That, people being made redundant, all those things. So I'll turn it over to Monique, who is in that group of younger people starting their business.
So I'm a millennial, and there's like this common misconception about millennials in terms of age. Like, I've seen like New York Times articles talking about millennials on spring break or whatever. Well, the oldest millennials are entering their 40s. We're not on a beach at spring break. We're, paying our mortgage and raising our kids and helping our parents figure out certain things. So the millennial range is between the 20s to early 40s. And a lot of what Crystal and Joyce talked about I definitely identify with for my generation. You know, we're looking more at work-life balance. We're looking at jobs that are and careers that fulfill us, and not just about making the money, but about doing something that has an impact. You know, I talked about that with my business. I know that Crystal and Joyce have that same kind of thing with their businesses. They're talking about impact as well. And so that definitely resonates with me. And I've definitely seen a lot of growth of entrepreneurship in my generation, especially even within the last year. There's been an explosion of new businesses and so many great success stories. And that's one of the things I love about working with other entrepreneurs is having clients whose businesses I believe in and I genuinely want to see them succeed. And so it's not just about making money or just having clients to pay the bills, but it's about being able to cheer them on and to see, okay, wow, you're doing great things. I love what you're doing. You know, I want to help this business succeed. I want to help push you along because I believe in what you're doing. And so that's something that I believe in strongly, and something that I see is very common amongst my age group. And so it's just great to see the explosion of entrepreneurship.
Thank you. I'm going to merge some questions together. Obviously, COVID has rather affected networking, but how important is networking versus your own experience? You know, what's more important, networking or your own experience? And also, how do you balance securing new business and being the one running the business at the same time? Who wants to jump in on that?
Well, I'll say the last one, you have to work in your business and on your business simultaneously. You can't neglect it. And when you don't have a lot of funds, I know a lot of people, when I started, it was like, I couldn't afford to have anybody help me. And I find now I should have, because the value of having somebody assist me, one, helps the economy. When I hire a bookkeeper, they're able to do the books because, as Crystal said, you know, they can do it just as well as I can. My expertise is the CFO space and the assisting and advising and coaching and all those kinds of things. I can do the books, I can do the financial statements, but it's better if I have somebody else help me so that I can work on the business. So it's very important, because you can work in the business and not have any more business coming in. So you've done it and then there's nobody there. So you have to work in advance. You have to work like a month out, or at least 2 to 3 better. As Monique said, she's got calendars and things like that. So you have to look at next month, especially if you're brand new. What business is coming in August and September? That should have been thought about at the beginning of July. So you have to do both concurrently, and that deals with networking. That COVID has affected networking, but there's so much networking online and so much free stuff. I think it's experience. And again, I'm a both and person. I'm a both and person. So it's something a lot of times is not just black and white. So I think experience is very important, but networking is very important as well. That, you know, and if I'm answering that question properly, I think you can find and get business from word of mouth and all of that, but it's a global space now. You can set up your own networking by going on lots of different Facebook groups, or there's lots of ways you can network. There's lots of free conferences, and people are giving information free because they're trying to get your business in something else, but it doesn't negate that you're getting some value. You're meeting people from all over the world. And, you know, to me, COVID has been great because it's allowed us in Bermuda to be on spaces and stages and in places with people that we may not have met had it not been for COVID, because they are online. And so now we're online. So there's more networking, I think, due to COVID than there used to be. And I think we just have to find ways to take advantage of that for our niche. So I'll turn it over. As they say on Clubhouse, I'm done talking.
Anyone else want to comment on that, or I have other questions?
I'll just, in terms of Joyce talked about working in your business versus on your business, and I completely agree. If you're solely focused on working in your business, you don't have a business, you have a job. You have a job with a terrible boss. So you need to make time to make sure you work on your business, that you're wearing your CEO hat, that you're wearing your CFO hat, and not just your employee hat. And so one of the ways that I do it is I have a spreadsheet where I approximate, okay, well, about how many hours am I spending a week doing actual legal work? How many hours am I spending doing admin work? How many hours am I spending as a social media manager? And then I actually calculate out what the salary would be for each of those roles. So, you know, if as an admin, I would be making $20 an hour. I'm just pulling out the numbers. And I do 10 hours a week, then that salary needs to include $200 a week for that admin role. And the same thing if I'm doing, you know, 4 hours a week as social media manager, then I need to calculate into the salary. And then I use that to calculate the salary that I pay myself. And then when it comes time to hire for those roles, I already have the money because I have the salary and I've said, you know, I need a part-time social media manager for 4 hours a week at X a month. Well, I've already costed that into my business. And so that frees my time up to focus on, you know, focus more on being in that CEO, in that, you know, legal technician role, as opposed to just focusing on being in the business and doing the work. And so it's so important to find that balance, able to figure out, A, not only how am I spending my time, but B, how am I paying for that time? Because you want to be able to grow your team and you want to be able to afford to grow your team. And that even goes into the strengths. When you grow your team, you want to make sure that's freeing up your time to do the higher value work. So for example, I remember before I started talking with someone and they were saying, well, you know, what kind of role would you hire first? Would it be a paralegal? Would it be an admin? And I said, my first goal is to hire an admin on a part-time basis, because that frees me up to do, you know, the legal work, to do the CEO work. But if I hired a paralegal, for example, I'm either paying a paralegal to do admin work, or I'm still continuing to do the admin work myself. And so then it's not the best use of my funds or my business's funds. So thinking about these kind of trade-offs and thinking about how your business grows and how you need to spend that time growing it.
Thank you. I realize we only have about 5 minutes left, and there's a few questions. One which I think is important that I want to try to hit is we have a question here. They want to hear your thoughts about how to get paid and pricing and local versus overseas customers. Do you have different rates depending like government, private sector, charities, and whether they book you on for many projects or for like a year versus a short-term project? So I've kind of immersed a few questions here. Anyone want to address any of that?
I
can jump in.
Or go ahead, Monique.
Oh, well, I was going to say that can be an entire seminar on its own. Hit to the BDC. I've read books on pricing because, as I mentioned, I'm doing value-based pricing. So I've done tons of research into this. I've read books. I've actually taken a course. And there's a lot that goes into it. Definitely too much for 5 minutes. But the answer is yes to all of the above. And so you have to think about one of the challenges in the Bermuda market I found. It's hard to get good information. And so, you know, other places you might be able to pull statistics, you may be able to look at, you know, what other businesses charging, or, you know, to kind of help get an idea of what the market is. Whereas in Bermuda, it's hard to find that information. So you may be able to get information, for example, from overseas and kind of tailor it. But some of pricing is just going to have to be trial and error. And so to realize that every single client, you're not going to be wedded to that price for the rest of your business. And so instead of getting caught up in, I need to have the pricing perfect from the very beginning, you know, you take one client, you look at the pricing, you keep track of your hours, you keep track of resources, you say, okay, well, that was a good price, that was not a good price, I lost money on that client, or I just didn't make the profit that I felt I should have, or I didn't get to the value for the client. You know, obviously I gave them value, but they would have actually have paid more for the service because they valued it more. And so there is going to be an element of trial and error in terms of developing your pricing.
Okay. Thank you. Joyce, I think this is a question for you. This is probably going to be our last one. Someone's asking, with a small consultancy of 1 to 5 people, how do they realistically connect with a large enterprise that may have a perceived risk of engaging a small business? Should incorporation be a must first, straight out of the gate? to mitigate that risk?
That's actually a Monique question, I will say, because it's dealing with incorporation and legal.
True.
In terms of incorporation, a lawyer's favorite answer is it depends. And so it really depends on the type of business, the type of risk, what you're looking at. And I don't know that it actually matters so much to the client. I mean, they may look at it and say, okay, well, this person is more serious, but in some ways it's actually less beneficial for the client because it limits your liability. And so therefore, from the client's perspective, if you mess something up and you owe them a bunch of money, well, they can only get the money that's available in your company as opposed to your personal assets. So good for you, might actually be bad for the client. So from the client perspective, that might not be a big deal. But in terms of what's best for your actual business, it really depends. Obviously, there's a cost in terms for incorporation, but then there are also huge benefits. But not every single business will need to be incorporated right away. And so it's definitely good to talk with somebody about your own specific situation to decide at what point do you need to incorporate.
Okay, just one last quick question I just saw. How do you manage handover when outsourcing? I don't know who's best to answer that one. Would that be Crystal or Joyce?
I think the approach that Monique said earlier is probably the best thought approach to that, and that is understanding specifically what the scope is that you need a person to be engaged in. And I think, understanding what the scope is, understanding the criteria that works best, as Joyce said, finding the right match, someone whose values are aligned with your business, understanding the scope of what you need them to do, and creating that alignment is really important. And it takes time to be able to find that match. And so I would say that if you can first understand very clearly what you need a person to do, and that is so important. And then what kind of person is the best what kind of strengths do they have? What kind of strengths, as Monique said, you may have the certain domains of strength in execution, relationship management, influencing, whatever. But then you might need somebody else to complement that. And so figuring out the criteria in terms of what is in alignment with your business, with the values, what strengths you have that need to be complemented by other strengths in your business, and understanding the scope of the responsibilities that could really support business, where they could add value, where it's not as much value for you to be working on that particular side of business.
Awesome, thank you.
Can I add one quick thing too? Sorry.
Sure.
Another thing that's important is documenting your processes and procedures, which a lot of very, very well-established businesses don't do. But it's so much easier to hire if it's simple as, if you have an intake poll, write down the steps that you do on that. And even before you hire, it's helpful for you to ensure consistency and that you're not missing steps. But when you do hire, you have the processes in place and someone can just step right in and follow those, as opposed to how do you do this? And they're bothering you, you have no idea what to do. That's something that's important.
That's good. That's really good.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Thank you. Unfortunately, we are out of time, so if we didn't get a chance to answer your questions, I apologize, but I hope you've enjoyed our presentation. Remember to check out the EDC's website. We've got more information and a whole how-to guide on how to start a consulting business that goes into more detail. And I want to give a special thank you to our guest speakers, being fantastic. Very impressed by all of you individually, and you've done a very good job answering questions and presenting today. So thank you, I appreciate it. And if anyone has any other questions, just email me at BEDC. That's jstarling@bedc.pm, and I'll do my best to answer any questions that we weren't able to do today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been great, guys, Monique and Crystal, and thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Okay, guys.
It's
Thank
great
you
to be
very
with
much.
you, Monique and Joyce.
Yes, you too.
Yes, and awesome.
All right. Have a good day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you as well,
you.
everyone. Happy fun match, blue and blue.
Red and blue.
All right. I'm going to end the webinar now. Have a good day, everyone.
Red and blue.
You too.